It was a crisp fall morning in New York City when Mia Thompson stepped into the sprawling convention center. She had never felt more out of place. The glass walls stretched high into the sky, reflecting the city's hustle, and the air was thick with the scent of fresh coffee, high-end suits, and the buzz of fast-paced conversations. Mia had just graduated from Columbia with a degree in graphic design, but she wasn't here for the usual job fair. This was a high-profile tech and design conference, the kind of event where the top 1% of entrepreneurs and innovators came to talk about their latest breakthroughs. Mia had no illusions. She was there to network, to find any opportunity that might give her a foot in the door. She tugged nervously at the hem of her blazer and glanced around. Her peers, confidently chatting about their latest projects, looked like they belonged here, with their neatly tailored suits and designer shoes. Meanwhile, Mia stood there in her modest black dress, with just a hint of nervousness behind her smile. But it didn't matter. She had come here for one reason: to make something of herself. That's when she first saw him. He stood on the far side of the room, talking to a group of investors with an air of detached confidence. The man was impeccably dressed in a sharp navy suit, his posture tall and commanding, his eyes scanning the room as if he had already seen everything there was to see. Ethan Blackwell, the name, had been buzzing around the industry for months. At 34, he was a tech mogul, the founder and CEO of Blackwell Industries, a startup that had gone public and was now valued at several $1 billion. He was the epitome of Silicon Valley's succession, handsome, and as elusive as a shadow. Mia had heard his name before, of course. Blackwell Industries had been in the news more times than she could count. They were behind some of the most cutting-edge software in AI and robotics. Mia had read articles about him, but seeing him in person was something else entirely. The way he moved, the way people around him seemed to part just to make space for him. It was magnetic. For a moment, their eyes met across the room. He locked his gaze onto hers, but it wasn't the kind of look that made her feel nervous. Instead, it was almost as if he was sizing her up, evaluating her presence. It didn't last long, just a fleeting moment, but Mia felt it. She felt noticed. Before she could process the strange feeling, one of the organizers of the event approached her, snapping her back to reality. "Excuse me, are you here for the breakout session on AI and design?" Mia blinked. Yes, that's me." She quickly followed the organizer into one of the conference rooms, but her thoughts were still with him. Ethan Blackwell. The breakout session on AI and design was fascinating, but Mia couldn't focus. Her mind kept drifting back to the brief moment she had shared with Ethan. She had always admired the way tech moguls carried themselves, confident, decisive, and seemingly untouchable. But she wasn't sure if she wanted to be a part of that world. The cutthroat business, the constant need to prove yourself, the sacrifices, it wasn't the kind of life she imagined for herself. Yet, there was something about Ethan Blackwell that made her question everything. When the session finally ended, Mia stepped into the hall, trying to shake off her distraction. She was so deep in thought that she didn't see the man standing right in front of her until she bumped into him. "Whoa. Sorry about that," Mia apologized. Instinctively taking a step back, she looked up to find herself face to face with none other than Ethan Blackwell. He was standing right in front of her, smiling politely but with an air of amusement in his eyes. "It's fine," Ethan said with a soft chuckle. "I should have been paying more attention." His deep voice had a calm confidence that made Mia's stomach flip. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Mia could feel the awkwardness hanging in the air, and she couldn't help but feel embarrassed. She was standing in front of the man who had built an empire, and here she was, fumbling over her words. I really enjoyed the session, Mia stammered, trying to recover. It's amazing to see how AI is being integrated into design. I've always thought there was so much potential for technology to revolutionize the creative process. Ethan's smile grew wider, and, for the first time, Mia noticed the hint of warmth in his expression. I couldn't agree more. It's people like you innovators in design who will shape the future of this industry. Mia blinked, surprised by his words. Was he really talking to her like this? Did he see something in her? I thank you, she said, a little taken aback by his sincerity. I'm Ethan, he introduced himself. Extending his hand, Mia, she replied, shaking his hand briefly, still trying to process what was happening. They stood there for a moment longer, exchanging a few more pleasantries about the session. Ethan's presence was magnetic, and Mia couldn't help but feel like there was something more to him than the usual billionaire CEO persona. There was a softness, a quiet intensity to him that intrigued her. As the conversation came to a natural end, Ethan's gaze softened. It was nice meeting you, Mia. I'm sure we'll run into each other again. Mia nodded, still slightly dazed. Yeah, it was nice meeting you too. After that chance encounter, Mia couldn't stop thinking about Ethan. She tried to push him from her mind, but it was hard. He was everything she wasn't: powerful, confident, successful. Yet, something about their brief conversation made her wonder if she could learn from him, even in a world so different from her own. Days passed, and the conference came to an end. But Mia couldn't shake the feeling that the encounter wasn't just a fluke. She kept telling herself that it wasn't possibly Ethan. Blackwell was the kind of man who wouldn't give someone like her a second thought. But deep down, a part of her hoped she was wrong. And then, out of the blue, she received an email from him. Subject: an invitation, dear Mia. It was a pleasure meeting you at the conference. I was truly impressed by your passion for design and innovation. I would love to continue our conversation and explore the possibility of collaborating on a project I think you'd find fascinating, if you're interested. Let me know, and we can arrange a meeting. Best, Ethan. Blackwell. Mia stared at the email in disbelief. Her heart raced as she read the words again. Was this real? Ethan Blackwell wanted to meet her again, wanted to talk about a collaboration. For a moment, she wondered if it was a mistake, if this was some sort of prank. But the longer she looked at the email, the more certain she became. This wasn't a joke. She took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. This was her chance to break into a world she had only ever dreamed of. And for once, she wasn't going to let her insecurities stop her. Mia sat at her desk, staring at the email from Ethan Blackwell. The words seemed to swim in front of her eyes, her heart racing with each word. Was this really happening? Ethan Blackwell, the CEO of Blackwell Industries, the man she had bumped into at the conference. He wanted to meet her again. He wanted to talk about collaborating on a project. Mia had always considered herself a dreamer, but she also understood the line between fantasy and reality. And now, it felt like she was walking that line. Should she accept the invitation? She knew it was an opportunity that could change her life, but a part of her felt like a small fish in a very big pond. She glanced at the clock on her wall. 2:30 p.m. It had been 10 minutes since she first read the email. Finally, she decided, if she didn't take the chance now, she would always wonder what might have happened. She typed a quick response. Subject: An invitation, dear Ethan. Thank you for reaching out. I would love the opportunity to meet and discuss the potential project you mentioned. I believe there's a lot I can learn from your expertise, and I'd be excited to explore how we can collaborate. Please let me know when and where would be convenient for you. Best regards. Mia Thompson. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. It was done. Now, all she had to do was wait. The next day, Mia found herself sitting in a chic coffee shop in the financial district of Manhattan. She had arrived 15 minutes early, her nerves a bundle of static electricity. The cafe was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the skyline. Mia had dressed carefully, a navy blue blazer, white blouse, and tailored black pants, but still felt underdressed compared to the polished environment. She sipped her coffee, trying to calm her racing thoughts. What did Ethan want with someone like her? Sure, they had shared a few pleasant words at the conference, but that hardly qualified her for anything more. But as the minutes ticked by, the door opened, and there he was, Ethan Blackwell. He walked into the cafe with the same commanding presence Mia had noticed at the conference. His dark suit was perfectly tailored, his tie a subtle shade of burgundy. He looked even more striking in person, his expression confident but not unapproachable. When his eyes met hers, a flicker of recognition passed between them. "Mia," he said, his voice smooth. "It's good to see you again." Mia stood up, trying to appear composed, even though her nerves were getting the best of her. "Ethan, thank you for meeting with me. I wasn't sure if this was real or if I was dreaming." Ethan laughed softly, the sound warm and genuine. "No dreams here, Mia. Just two people talking about business. Let's sit." They found a quiet corner of the cafe, and as they both settled into their seats, Ethan wasted no time getting to the point. "I've been thinking about the potential project I mentioned," he said, leaning forward slightly. "It's a new initiative we're launching at Blackwell Industries, focused on integrating AI with the design process. We're looking for someone with your skill set, someone who can bring a creative perspective to something highly technical. And based on your background, I think you'd be a perfect fit." Mia blinked, processing his words. AI and design. That was something she had only dreamed of, a fusion of technology and creativity. She had always believed in the power of design to shape the future, but to be a part of something like this. I don't know what to say," Mia stammered, trying to gather her thoughts. "I mean, I'd love to help, but this sounds like such a huge leap. I've never worked on something like this before." Ethan smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. "I'm not asking you to be an expert in AI overnight. Mia, what I'm looking for is someone who can think outside the box, someone with fresh ideas. You've been working in design for years, right? You understand the process, the nuances of creativity. This is just an opportunity to expand that vision." Mia was taken aback by his words. She had always thought that her limited experience in design would hold her back from something bigger. But here was someone who had made a name for himself in the tech world, asking her, a recent graduate, to join a groundbreaking project. She glanced down at her coffee cup, considering the offer. It was tempting, more than tempting, but it also felt like a risk. What if she failed? What if she couldn't live up to his expectations? "You're giving me a lot of confidence," she said, meeting his gaze again. "But it's a big jump from what I've been doing. What if I can't do it?" Ethan leaned back in his chair, the weight of his gaze never leaving her. "The only way to fail is not to try at all. You've got the potential, Mia. And if you decide to come on board, you'll have my support every step of the way." For a moment, Mia felt a sense of clarity. This was her chance. The chance she had been waiting for her entire life. Sure, it was scary, but nothing worth having ever came without a bit of fear, right? "I'm in," she said, the words slipping out before she had time to second-guess herself. Ethan's smile grew wider, and for the first time, Mia saw something beyond the businessman. She saw a mentor, someone who genuinely believed in her abilities. "I'm glad to hear that. We'll start right away. I'll have my team send over the details." As they continued talking, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something much bigger than she had ever imagined. Her mind raced with possibilities, by design, a new career path. She had been given an opportunity most people only dreamt of, and all it took was saying yes. After they wrapped up their meeting, Ethan walked her out to the street. "I'll see you soon, Mia," he said, giving her a friendly pat on the back. "Thanks again for the opportunity," she replied. Smiling as he turned and walked away, Mia stood still for a moment, watching him disappear into the crowd. She had just taken a leap into the unknown, and she wasn't sure what the future held. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was on the right path. It had been 2 weeks since Mia accepted Ethan's offer. Her world had shifted in ways she couldn't have imagined. From the day she joined the Blackwell Industries team, everything moved fast. Her responsibilities increased almost overnight, as did her exposure to Ethan's world of cutting-edge technology, high-profile meetings, and FOSS-based decision-making. The project Ethan had brought her onto was nothing short of revolutionary. The idea was to integrate artificial intelligence into the design process, not just as a tool for efficiency, but as a means of creating new forms of art. Mia was tasked with working alongside AI specialists, product designers, and a team of highly skilled engineers. She had never worked with anything like this before, and at first, she felt completely out of her depth. But Ethan was patient, always encouraging her to ask questions, to challenge the systems, to think bigger. His mentorship was subtle but effective. He didn't push her, he guided her. She realized quickly that Ethan's influence wasn't just in his business acumen, was in the way he made people around him feel empowered to succeed. Days turned into weeks, and Mia became more comfortable with her role. She had already contributed several concepts for the project, each of them unique and pushing the boundaries of what design could be. Yet, despite the success at work, something else was growing between her and Ethan. Something neither of them had expected. Mia started to notice it in the small things, where Ethan's eyes lingered on her a moment longer than necessary during meetings, the way he'd always make time to talk to her after hours about both work and life, the soft smiles that were reserved only for her. It wasn't overt, but it was there, an invisible thread that pulled them closer together. One evening, as they wrapped up a late meeting at the office, Ethan walked Mia to her car, just like he had done countless times before. It was chilly outside, the kind of autumn night that felt crisp and clean. The city hummed quietly around them, but for some reason, this time felt different. There was a quiet tension in the air. "I'll be traveling for a few days for a board meeting in San Francisco," Ethan said as they reached the sidewalk. "We've got a major pitch, and I'll need to focus. I'll miss working with you directly on the project, though." Mia nodded, though a strange feeling lingered in her chest. She hadn't realized how much she'd come to enjoy their late-night brainstorming sessions. "I'm sure we'll manage," she said, smiling. "You've taught me more in 2 weeks than I ever thought possible." Ethan smiled back, but there was something in his eyes that made her heart skip a beat. "You're a quick learner, Mia. That's what I admire about you." His voice softened. "I hope you know that." She blinked, unsure how to respond. The moment stretched longer than usual, and then Ethan cleared his throat, breaking the spell. "Well," he said, glancing at his watch, "I'd better get going. Have a good night, Mia." "You too," she said, though she could feel the quiet unease settling inside her. She didn't know what it was, but there was something that felt unfinished between them. As she watched him walk back into the building, she couldn't shake the feeling that things were changing. But was it for better or for worse? The next few days, as Ethan was away in San Francisco, Mia found herself focusing even more intently on the project. She had always been driven, but now, with the growing tension between her and Ethan, work was an escape. She spent long hours at the office, pouring her energy into the AI design project. Her team was thrilled with the progress, and Mia's concepts were becoming more innovative by the day. But even with all the professional success, something was missing. She missed Ethan's presence. She missed the conversations that felt effortless, the quiet moments when they shared ideas late into the night. She hadn't expected to feel this way, especially after so little time. On the 4th day of Ethan's trip, Mia found herself in a small cafe by the office, reviewing some designs, when her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. "Ethan, hey, I know you're probably busy, but I'd love to talk when I get back. I've been thinking about you and the project. Hope everything is going well. Let me know if you need anything." It was simple, professional, but there was something about it that made Mia's heart race. She wasn't sure why it affected her this way, but it did. She quickly typed back, "Mia, everything is going well. I've made a lot of progress. Safe travels, Ethan. Hope your meetings are going well." She read the message over again, wishing she could take back the detachment in her response. But she couldn't. She had to keep her distance. There was no room for complications, especially with a man like Ethan. She couldn't afford to fall for him. Not when they were from two completely different worlds. 3 days later, Ethan returned to New York. When Mia saw him again, her heart skipped a beat. He looked tired, but there was something about the way he walked into the office, the way he looked at her, that made her feel a pull she couldn't ignore. "Mia," Ethan said, his voice warm as he approached her desk. "I just wanted to thank you for keeping everything running smoothly while I was gone. You've been doing incredible work." She looked up, feeling a rush of emotion. "It's nothing. I'm just doing my job." "No," he said firmly, "it's more than that. You've been making real changes, Mia. You've been a game changer." For a moment, their eyes locked, and Mia couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. But then she noticed the way his gaze lingered just a little too long. It wasn't just professional anymore. She could feel the unspoken connection between them, pulling them closer, tightening with each passing second. Before she could say anything, Ethan took a step back. "I'm glad you're here, Mia. You're an important part of this team." And with that, he walked away, leaving Mia standing there, her heart beating faster than before. As the days passed, Mia found herself caught in a storm of emotions. She was falling for Ethan. She knew it. There was no denying the pull between them. But she also knew the consequences of crossing that line. Ethan was her boss. He was her mentor. They came from different worlds. He was the wealthy, successful CEO. She was the ambitious young designer, trying to carve out her own place. But the more they worked together, the harder it was to ignore the chemistry between them. Every time he looked at her, Mia felt her heart race. And every time they spoke, she felt an undeniable connection that went beyond work. The days following Ethan's return to New York passed in a blur of work and subtle moments of connection. The project was progressing smoothly, and Mia was thriving in her role. Her designs were being integrated into the final presentation, and her input was being taken seriously by the entire team. Ethan had even publicly praised her efforts in front of the board, a gesture that made Mia feel both proud and increasingly aware of the growing tension between them. However, despite the success at work, things between her and Ethan started to shift in ways she couldn't ignore. He was always there, offering support, offering guidance, but it was no longer just professional. The way he looked at her when they spoke in meetings, lingering a second too long, the curve of his lips as if he wanted to say something more, made it impossible for Mia to keep pretending that their relationship was only about work. Still, Mia couldn't shake the feeling of doubt. She wasn't sure if she could let herself fall for him. The lines were blurring professionalism, friendship, and something more, and that made her uneasy. But then, things started to get complicated. It happened during a late-night strategy session in the conference room. The team had been working non-stop for days, and tensions were running high. Mia had been pushing for a more creative approach to integrating AI with design, and Ethan had been backing her up at every turn. But that night, something changed. The discussion became heated. "I just don't think we can afford to take risks on this," one of the senior engineers said, crossing his arms. "The algorithm is solid, but we can't keep deviating from the plan. We need precision, not creativity right now." Mia's frustration bubbled over. "Precision is important, but we're not building a robot, we're building a vision. If we don't take some risks, this project is just going to be another lifeless piece of tech." Ethan's gaze flicked between them, but he remained silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. "Mia, I understand your point, but we need to balance creativity with practicality. We're in the business of results, not just ideas." Mia's pulse quickened. "I'm not just throwing out ideas, Ethan. I'm trying to innovate. But if you keep stifling my creativity, we're never going to break new ground." The room fell silent. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly, and Mia could feel the air grow thick with unspoken tension. For a moment, she thought he might say something, but instead, he simply nodded curtly. "We'll take a 5-minute break," he said, his tone firm. "Mia, let's talk." Mia followed Ethan into his office, the door clicking shut behind them. She could feel the weight of the silence between them. The tension that had been building up over the past few weeks was finally spilling over. "What was that about in there?" Mia asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I was trying to push the team forward, and you shut me down." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident on his face. "I wasn't trying to shut you down, Mia. I'm trying to balance everyone's ideas, but you can't just ignore the risks. This isn't a school project. We're launching something that could change the industry. You're too focused on the idea and not the execution." Mia took a step closer, her chest tightening. "I know what I'm doing. I've been in design for years. I've worked with countless companies, and I know what works." Ethan stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "This isn't just design, Mia. It's about more than just what looks good. It's about practicality, scalability, and he paused, his voice growing softer. Trust. Mia froze. Trust. Yes, Ethan said, his voice quiet now. I trust you to push boundaries, but I also trust you to see when something can't work. If you're going to be a part of this company, we need to trust each other more than just in ideas. Mia's heart raced. The last thing she wanted was for Ethan to doubt her. But what hurt more was the implication that she hadn't earned his trust, that he didn't believe in her ability to succeed without his oversight. I don't need you to trust me, she said, her voice tight. I need you to believe in me, fully, not just when it's convenient. Ethan's expression shifted, his eyes softening. I do believe in you, Mia, more than you know. But Mia wasn't sure if she could believe him anymore. The words didn't feel real, not with the weight of the silence hanging between them. She shook her head, her throat tight. I think I need some space to figure this out. Ethan's face fell. Mia, I just need some time, Ethan, she said, cutting him off. I'm not sure where we're going anymore, and I don't know if I'm ready for this. Not now. Without another word, Mia turned and walked out of the office, her heart pounding in her chest. The next few days felt like an endless string of awkward moments. Mia threw herself into the project, working late into the night to keep her mind occupied. But the tension with Ethan lingered, casting a shadow over every meeting and conversation. She kept her distance, refusing to acknowledge the growing emotions between them. Ethan, for his part, was quieter than usual. He wasn't avoiding her, but he wasn't the same either. He still praised her work, but there was a subtle coldness between them now. He didn't touch her arm when they spoke, didn't meet her gaze as steadily. He'd pulled back, and Mia could feel the weight of the space between them. But the more space she tried to create, the more she felt like she was losing him. By the end of the week, Mia was standing at a crossroads. She had to decide either she could keep running from the connection between her and Ethan, or she could face it head on. But facing it meant confronting not just their professional relationship, but the very real feelings that had developed between them. She found herself in the conference room late one night, working on the project, when she heard a knock on the door. Ethan stepped inside, his face unreadable. Mia, can we talk? He asked, his voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. Yeah. He walked over, his steps measured, his gaze never leaving hers. I know I pushed you too hard last week. I shouldn't have been so dismissive of your ideas. I was frustrated, but that's no excuse. I want to fix this, Mia. I don't want to lose your trust or your partnership. Mia's heart fluttered, but she wasn't ready to let him off the hook, so Ethan, you pushed me aside when I needed you the most. I can't keep going like this. We need to find balance, and we need to talk about this about us before we can move forward. Ethan nodded slowly, as if the weight of her words had just fully settled in. You're right, and I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust. I'll do whatever it takes to make this work, because I don't want to lose you, Mia. Mia swallowed, taking a deep breath. We'll see, Ethan. We'll see. The following week felt like a slow unraveling. Mia threw herself into her work, focusing on the project and her responsibilities. She had to keep moving forward, or else the weight of everything would pull her down. Ethan kept his distance too, but it wasn't the professional distance they had maintained before. It was colder, more strained. They no longer shared the small moment-passing glances, subtle gestures, quiet conversations after meetings that had made their connection feel so real. Mia could feel it. She could feel him pulling away, and, as much as she hated it, she knew it was for the best. She needed to focus on herself, on her career, on what she wanted. She wasn't sure where they stood anymore. Ethan was a powerful man, a force in the business world. But she wasn't sure if she could stay in his orbit and maintain her sense of self. She had to make a choice. She avoided eye contact in meetings. She kept her responses short. It wasn't that she didn't appreciate the work they were doing together. It was just that everything felt ... different. The excitement of the project, the possibility of creating something groundbreaking, had lost its shine in the wake of everything that had happened between them. One evening, after an exhausting day of back-and-forth emails and long discussions about the project's direction, Mia sat at her desk, staring at her laptop. The soft hum of the office around her felt distant. Ethan had just left for the night, but she could feel his presence lingering in the air. A few minutes later, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Ethan. "Ethan, Mia, can we talk tomorrow? There's something I need to say." Mia hesitated for a moment, her thumb hovering over the screen. Should she respond? She didn't want to keep running from him, but she didn't know if she was ready to face him yet. She knew she couldn't continue like this, avoiding the reality of their situation. Finally, she typed a simple response. "Mia, sure. I'll be in the office around 9 the next morning." Mia arrived at the office early, trying to mentally prepare herself for what was to come. The silence in the building felt heavier than usual. Ethan had been in meetings since early morning, but she could sense his presence as soon as he walked into the office. He didn't wait for her to approach him. He walked straight to her desk, his face serious. Mia looked up, meeting his eyes. They both knew this conversation had been a long time coming. "Can we talk in private?" Ethan asked, his voice quiet but firm. Mia nodded and led him to the small conference room down the hall. The door closed with a soft click behind them, and the tension between them was palpable. Ethan took a seat across from her, his hands clasped together in front of him. Mia sat down, her palms pressed flat on the table. Neither of them spoke for a moment. "I don't want to keep avoiding this." "Mia," Ethan finally said, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her heart race. "I know things have been tense between us, and I don't like it. I want to fix this." Mia's chest tightened. She had been waiting for this moment, but now that it was here, she didn't know how to respond. She opened her mouth, but the words caught in her throat. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened," Ethan continued, "and I realize that I hurt you in more ways than one. I pushed you away, and I wasn't fair to you. I know you were trying to make a real contribution to the project, and I should have supported you more." Mia took a deep breath, trying to steady her emotions. "I appreciate you saying that, Ethan, but it's not just about work. It's about us, and I've been avoiding facing it because I don't know how to handle it." Ethan leaned forward slightly, his voice softening. "I never wanted to make you feel small, Mia. I don't know what I was thinking, but I let my own fears cloud my judgment. The truth is, I'm scared. I'm scared of losing you, of pushing you too hard. But I'm more scared of losing what we have. Whatever this is between us." Mia's heart skipped a beat. She looked down, trying to make sense of his words. "I don't know, Ethan. We've crossed so many boundaries, professional ones, personal ones. I don't know where we're supposed to go from here." Ethan's eyes were filled with regret. "I never meant for it to get complicated. I thought I could keep my distance and maintain control, but it's not working. And I don't want to keep pretending like I don't care about you. Mia, Mia's emotions surged, and she stood up abruptly, walking to the window. She couldn't look at him, not when the air was thick with the truth she had been trying to ignore. She needed space to think. She needed to figure out if this was something worth saving, or if it was too far gone. "I need to step away from this," Mia said, her voice trembling. "I need to clear my head. I don't know what this is anymore, Ethan. I don't know if I can keep doing this." Ethan didn't move. He didn't try to stop her. Instead, he nodded, as if he had expected this. "I understand. I've given you too much to process already. I'll respect your space, Mia, but I don't want to lose you. Not like this." Mia's heart ached at his words, but she couldn't bring herself to look back at him. "I don't know what I want right now," she whispered. "I need time." After that conversation, Mia spent the next few days in a haze. She distanced herself from Ethan, throwing herself into her work, though it no longer held the same meaning. The project continued, but Mia couldn't shake the weight of everything that had happened between them. Ethan, too, seemed to retreat into himself. His messages were few, his presence at meetings less frequent. They had become strangers, bound together by the project but emotionally distant. Mia knew the separation was necessary for both of them to understand what they truly wanted, but it still hurt. The absence of his voice, his guidance, his quiet support, it all felt like a loss. But in the silence, Mia began to understand something important. She didn't just miss the man she had been working with. She missed the man she had grown close to, the one who had taught her to challenge herself, to push her boundaries, to believe in something bigger than herself. And maybe, just maybe, she missed the possibility of what they could have been. It had been a week since the confrontation. A week since Mia had walked away from Ethan, unsure of what to do next. The days blurred together in a haze of deadlines, endless meetings, and the ever-present nagging feeling that something crucial was missing. She kept busy, kept her head down, but the distance between her and Ethan felt like an insurmountable wall. Mia threw herself into the AI design project with a new sense of purpose, but even that couldn't fill the emptiness. She found herself distracted, her mind wandering to the conversations she had with Ethan, the way he looked at her, the warmth in his voice when they first started working together. But now, all of that felt like a distant memory. She had to admit it. She missed him, not just as a mentor or colleague, but as something more. But there was also the question she couldn't shake. Was this all worth it? Was her emotional vulnerability worth the risk of losing herself in someone else's world? As the days passed, the silence between them only deepened. Ethan didn't reach out, and neither did Mia. It wasn't that they didn't want to, but both were too proud, too afraid of opening up again, too scared of what would happen if they did. It was a Thursday when the news broke. Blackwell Industries had just secured a multi-million-dollar deal with a high-profile investor. But it wasn't the contract itself that caught Mia's attention. It was the press release and the image attached to it. Ethan was standing front and center, flanked by executives and investors. But what caught Mia's eye wasn't the announcement. It was the woman standing beside him, Avery Carter. She was beautiful, poised, with striking blonde hair and a polished smile. Mia didn't recognize her at first, but the image sparked something deep inside her, feeling she couldn't ignore. As she read the accompanying text, she learned that Avery was a new member of the board at Blackwell Industries, brought in as a strategic partner for future growth. Mia tried to push the uneasy feeling down, telling herself it was nothing, but her mind wouldn't let it go. She couldn't ignore the subtle, undertones in the way the article described. Her business partner with exceptional vision and close working relationship with Mr. Blackwell. Mia closed the laptop, her heart beating faster than it should have. She didn't know why it bothered her so much, but it did. Maybe it was because she hadn't heard from Ethan in days. Maybe it was because she felt like an outsider in his world. Or maybe, just maybe, it was because she still hadn't fully let go of her feelings for him. Later that day, a colleague from another department approached Mia in the break room. Her name was Rachel, and she was someone MIA had always found easy to talk to. A bit of a confidant. "You see the latest press release?" Rachel asked, leaning in with a grin. "Ethan Blackwell's new business partner, she's stunning, huh?" Mia felt a cold knot twist in her stomach, but she tried to hide it. "Yeah, I saw it," she said, forcing a smile. "Well, word around here is that they've been pretty cozy for a while now," Rachel continued, lowering her voice. "Some people are saying there's more to their relationship than just business. You know how it is. People talk." Mia's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Rachel shrugged, a knowing look in her eyes. "Just be careful, Mia. I'm sure there's nothing going on, but Ethan's always been a bit of a mystery. No one really knows what's going on behind the scenes with him." Mia didn't know what to say. She didn't want to believe what Rachel was suggesting, but a part of her couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She had been avoiding the possibility that Ethan might be seeing someone else, but hearing it out loud felt like a punch to the gut. She excused herself quickly, her head spinning with questions. Had she misjudged everything? Had Ethan been pushing her away because of someone else? Or was it just her imagination running wild? That evening, Mia decided to confront the situation head-on. She needed answers, and if Ethan wasn't going to give them to her willingly, she would take matters into her own hands. She sat down at her desk, her fingers hesitating over the keyboard. The urge to call him, to send him a message, was overwhelming, but her pride held her back. Instead, she composed a message, careful not to sound accusatory, but also wanting to get the truth out in the open. "Mia, Ethan, I saw the press release today. It's great news about the deal, but I have to ask what's going on with Avery Carter. I can't ignore what I've been hearing. Please, I need to know where we stand." She read the message over twice before hitting send. Immediately, a sense of dread washed over her. She had never been this direct with him before, but there was no turning back now. It took longer than Mia expected for him to reply. Her heart raced as she watched the small notification appear on her phone screen. "Ethan, Mia, I understand your concerns, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. Avery and I have a professional relationship. She's been brought in as part of the expansion, and that's all there is to it. I never intended to make you feel uncomfortable. Please believe me when I say that." Mia stared at the screen for a long moment. She wanted to believe him. She really did. But the words didn't feel right. There was something off. Something about the way he was trying to distance himself from the situation that made her feel even more unsure. Had he been too focused on the project in Avery, or was there something else at play? Her mind spun with conflicting emotions: relief that Ethan wasn't seeing someone else, anger that he hadn't been more transparent with her, and confusion over where they stood. She couldn't keep living like this, caught between wanting to trust him and feeling like she was in the dark. Mia put her phone down and took a deep breath. She had spent so much time trying to make things work between them, but she had never stopped to ask herself one crucial question: what do I really want? She had wanted to believe in him, in their connection, but the distance between them had only grown, and with it, her doubt. It wasn't just about the press release or Avery. It was about Ethan's silence, about the way he had pulled away, about the fact that Mia had never fully understood who he was or where they stood. Mia knew now that she couldn't continue like this. If she was going to have any peace, she needed to confront the truth, not just about Ethan, but about herself and her own feelings. Mia paced her apartment that evening, her mind racing with the words Ethan had sent. She'd spent hours staring at her phone, rereading his message over and over again. Part of her wanted to believe him. He'd explained the situation with Avery clearly, insisting that their relationship was purely professional. But there was still a nagging doubt in the back of her mind. What if he was telling the truth, but he still hadn't been completely honest with her about everything? What if there was more to the situation than he was letting on? Mia had never been one to shy away from tough conversations, and she knew that if she wanted answers, she would need to hear them from Ethan himself. It had been too long, too much silence. She couldn't continue living in this limbo. She grabbed her phone and hesitated for only a moment before texting him. Mia, Ethan, I think we need to talk in person. I can't keep going on like this, and neither can you. Please, let's meet. It didn't take long for him to reply, as though he had been waiting for her to reach out. Ethan, of course. I'll meet you wherever you want. They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe downtown, a place they'd visited a few times before. It was a neutral location, nothing too formal, but enough for a serious conversation. As Mia made her way there, her heart pounded in her chest. This was it. She was about to face everything she had been avoiding. When Mia walked into the cafe, Ethan was already there, sitting at a corner booth, staring down at his phone. He looked up as she approached, and for a brief moment, his expression softened. But the tension in his eyes was unmistakable. He had been waiting for this moment as much as she had. Hey, Mia said softly, sliding into the seat across from him. Hey, Ethan replied, his voice calm, but there was an edge to it. He looked tired more than she had ever seen him. Maybe it was because he knew they were finally going to have the conversation they had both been avoiding. I'm glad you called, Ethan said, his eyes meeting hers. I think I owe you an explanation. Mia nodded, feeling a lump form in her throat. She wasn't sure if she could keep her emotions in check. I don't know if I can keep doing this, Ethan. The silence, the distance. I just don't understand what's happening between us anymore. It's like we're not even the same people who met at the conference. Ethan exhaled deeply, running a hand through his hair. I know, Mia. I've been a mess. I've been trying to keep things professional, but I should have been honest with you from the start. I should have never let things get this complicated. I care about more than I've cared about anyone in a long time. The words hung in the air between them. Mia could feel her heart flutter, but she wasn't ready to let her guard down just yet. She needed him to say more. She needed to know exactly where they stood. You care about me, but that's not enough, Mia said, her voice shaking slightly. I don't want to be just another person in your life. Ethan, I don't want to feel like I'm being kept at arm's length because of your work or because of Avery, whatever else is going on behind the scenes. Ethan's face tightened, and he leaned forward, his voice lowering. There's nothing going on with Avery. She's a business partner, Mia, nothing more. I've known her for years. But you're different. You're not just a colleague or a partner. You've gotten under my skin in a way that no one else ever has. and I let the pressure of everything work, the project, the business get in the way of that. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Mia's breath hitched. She had heard the words she needed to hear, but there was still something unsettled within her. Was this just him trying to make amends, or was it the truth? But why didn't you just tell me that from the start? Mia asked, her voice rising. Why did you let me think I was just a distraction? Why did you pull away when I needed you the most? Ethan looked down at the table for a moment, as though gathering his thoughts. I've been afraid, Mia. Afraid of being vulnerable. Afraid of letting someone in. I've spent so much of my life building this empire, protecting myself from everyone, from letting anyone get close enough to hurt me. But with you, it's different. And I didn't know how to handle it. I've never been good at this at us, but that doesn't mean I don't want it. The sincerity in his voice caught Mia off guard. She had always known Ethan to be confident, composed, but hearing him admit his vulnerability, his fear of losing control, made her realize how much they were alike. I've been scared too, Mia confessed, her voice trembling. Scared of getting too close, scared of being hurt, but I can't keep running from this. From you. From what we could have. There was a long pause. The air around them felt heavy, charged with the unspoken tension they had been carrying for weeks. Mia's heart was pounding in her chest, but she didn't look away from Ethan. She needed to know the truth, needed to know if this was something worth saving. I want this, Mia, Ethan said softly. I want us. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I'm willing to try. I'll do whatever it takes to make this work. I just need you to be willing to try to. Mia's eyes softened, and she took a deep breath. I'm willing, but we can't keep pretending like we don't have real feelings for each other. We need to stop hiding behind work, behind these walls we've built around us. Ethan nodded, his expression filled with determination. No more walls. No more running. Mia leaned back in her chair, a small sigh escaping her lips. The weight that had been pressing on her chest for weeks seemed to lift, if only a little. She still wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was no longer alone in this. I'm glad we talked, Mia said, her voice softer now, but we still have a lot to work through. This isn't just about us, it's about what we both want out of this, and how we can make it work, without letting everything else get in the way. Ethan smiled, his eyes full of relief. I agree. We'll take it one step at a time. But I promise, Mia, I'm not going anywhere. They both stood up, and Ethan held his hand out to her. One step at a time, he repeated. Mia took his hand, a small but significant gesture that felt like a new beginning. It had been a few weeks since Mia and Ethan had their heart-to-heart conversation, and while things weren't perfect, they were undeniably better. The tension between them had eased, replaced by a tentative hope that they could make things work, both personally and professionally. Work had become smoother too. Mia had thrown herself back into the project, feeling more confident than ever. Ethan had been supportive, guiding her, but also giving her space to lead. Their professional relationship had found a new rhythm, one where they respected each other's strengths and were no longer afraid to challenge one another. But the real challenge lay ahead. Could they find a way to make their personal relationship work in the midst of their high-pressure lives? It was late one evening when Mia received a call from Ethan. She had just wrapped up a presentation to the board, and her mind was still buzzing with the numbers and projections. When she saw his name on the screen, a warmth spread through her chest. Things had changed. No longer was their connection clouded by doubt and uncertainty. They had both opened up, and in doing so, they had allowed each other to become a part of their lives in a way they hadn't before. "Hey Mia," Ethan said, his voice easy and familiar. "How's the presentation?" "It went well. We've made some serious progress on the project, and I'm feeling good about where we're headed," Mia replied, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "What about you? How was the trip to San Francisco?" "It was productive, but I missed having you around to bounce ideas off of," Ethan admitted, "and I wanted to talk about something personal." Mia's stomach fluttered. She knew this moment was coming. The boundary between their professional and personal lives had always been thin, and while they had made progress, it wasn't going to be easy to navigate. "Sure, what's on your mind?" she asked, trying to sound casual, though she could feel the unease creeping in. "I was thinking about us," Ethan said, the tone in his voice growing softer, "about how we're managing both work and everything else. And I know we agreed to take it slow, but I think it's time we had a serious talk about how we can balance it all. We both want different things, and the last thing I want is for either of us to feel like we're sacrificing too much." Mia leaned back in her chair, feeling her pulse quicken. She had been waiting for this conversation, but the weight of it made her hesitate. "I know what you mean. It's complicated, Ethan, and I'm not sure I have all the answers yet. I don't want to lose myself in this. I don't want to lose my independence or my career because of ... us." Ethan was quiet for a moment, and Mia could almost hear him thinking, weighing his words carefully. "I get it, Mia. I don't want that either, but I've realized that I'm willing to make adjustments. I want you to feel like you're still in control of your life and your career. I'm not asking you to drop everything for me. I'm asking for a partnership, a balance." His words settled in Mia's chest like a quiet assurance. They were both on the same page, but the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. They still had a long way to go, and there were plenty of obstacles ahead. But for the first time, Mia felt like they could navigate it together. "Okay," Mia said, a sigh of relief escaping her lips. "We'll figure it out, step by step. But we need to communicate better. No more avoiding things or pretending like everything is fine when it's not." "Agreed," Ethan replied, his voice warm. "And no more trying to handle everything alone. We're in this together." The next few days were a whirlwind. Mia and Ethan threw themselves back into the project with renewed energy. And while they had their moments of tension, they found ways to balance their professional and personal lives more effectively. Ethan took steps to involve Mia more in the decision-making process at work, giving her opportunities to lead meetings and contribute her ideas. But despite the progress they made, the tension between their professional obligations and personal desires was never far from the surface. One afternoon, Mia found herself sitting at her desk, reviewing design drafts for the project when Ethan knocked lightly on her door. She looked up and saw him standing in the doorway, his expression serious. "Mia, can we talk for a second?" Ethan asked, his tone carefully measured. Mia nodded, her heart picking up its pace. "Of course. What's going on?" Ethan walked into the room, his hands in his pockets. "I've been thinking about our last conversation, and I want to take it further. I don't think we're being as transparent with each other as we should be." Mia frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Ethan paused, choosing his words carefully. "I've been giving you space, Mia, but I think it's time to stop pretending like I don't want more from this. I care about you more than I've let on, and it's time I stop hiding that. We're both in the same place, emotionally. We just need to stop holding back." Mia's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected Ethan to be so direct, but in some ways, it was exactly what she needed to hear. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she was about to say. "Ethan," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I care about you too. I really do. But I'm scared. I'm scared of losing myself in this relationship, of losing my independence and everything I've worked for. I don't want to lose me." Ethan nodded, his expression softening. "I don't want you to lose yourself, Mia. I want you to be you, with or without me. But I also want you to know that I'm here, no matter what. I'm not going anywhere." There was a vulnerability in his voice that Mia hadn't heard before. It made her heart ache with a mixture of love and fear. She knew Ethan was being sincere, but the fear of giving so much of herself to someone else was overwhelming. "Okay," she said quietly, her eyes meeting his. "But we need to take it slow. No rushing, no pretending we have all the answers. We'll work through it together." Ethan smiled, a small, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "I can do slow, as long as it's with you." Mia felt a sense of relief wash over her, and for the first time in weeks, she felt like the weight had been lifted from her shoulders. They didn't have to figure everything out right away. They didn't have to have all the answers. What mattered was that they were willing to try together. Later that evening, after they wrapped up work for the day, Mia and Ethan took a walk through Central Park. The city buzzed around them, but for the first time in a long time, they were in sync. Their hands brushed once, and then, without a word, they intertwined their fingers. It wasn't a grand declaration of love. It was a quiet understanding, a promise that they were both willing to face whatever came next, dashed together as they walked beneath the golden glow of the park lights. Mia felt a flicker of hope, of possibility. This wasn't the end of the road, but it was a new beginning, and maybe, just maybe, they could make it work. It had been a month since Mia and Ethan had their honest conversation, and while the path ahead wasn't always smooth, things had certainly improved. They had found their rhythm balancing work and their growing relationship. They had learned to communicate better, to set boundaries, and to respect each other's space. But despite the progress, external pressures were starting to creep in. The project they had been working on was nearing completion, and with it came more scrutiny. Ethan's team had been working relentlessly, and now it was time for the big presentation to potential investors. As the day of the presentation approached, Mia could feel the tension building. Ethan had always been someone who thrived under pressure, but lately, his usual calm demeanor had been replaced by restlessness. He was distracted at meetings, more irritable than usual, and Mia too found herself feeling overwhelmed by the mounting pressure. The project had become everything: their work, their connection. Their future was tied to its success, but there was something else. Despite their growing closeness, Mia had started to feel like an outsider in Ethan's world. The stakes had always been high for him, but now, with everything on the line, Mia was beginning to wonder if she truly belonged in that world. It was the day before the final presentation, and Ethan's stress was at an all-time high. The office had become a battleground, with last-minute revisions and endless meetings. Mia could see how much was riding on this moment for him. She understood. She knew this was a critical turning point for Blackwell Industries, and Ethan was giving everything he had to make it work. But despite understanding the pressure, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing him. He was so focused on the project, so consumed by the pressure of the presentation, that he barely seemed to notice her. He was distant, lost in his thoughts. That evening, as they worked late at the office, Mia finally couldn't take it anymore. She needed to talk to him. She needed him to see Hertham again, not just as part of the project, but as the person he had started to build a life with. "Ethan," Mia said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper as she entered his office. He was hunched over his desk, his eyes glued to his laptop screen. He looked up, his expression a mixture of exhaustion and frustration. "Not now, Mia. I can't, Mia. I'm just trying to finish this," Ethan interrupted, rubbing his temples. "Can this wait, please?" Mia took a deep breath, holding her ground. "No, Ethan, it can't. We need to talk. I need you to see me, not just the project. You're here, but you're not really here. And I feel like I'm disappearing, like I'm just a part of this whole thing you're so focused on." Ethan froze, his eyes widening as the words sunk in. He stood up slowly, walking toward her with a look of disbelief on his face. "I'm sorry, Mia," he said, his voice quiet, regret lacing his words. "I didn't realize I was shutting you out. But you have to understand. This presentation, this project, it's everything. If it doesn't work, it's not just the business we lose. It's everything I've worked for." Mia's heart ached at the sincerity in his voice. But the frustration that had been building in her all week spilled over. "I understand that, Ethan, but you're forgetting something. I'm not just a part of the business. I'm a part of your life, too. And right now, I feel like I don't exist outside of your project. This project is not everything to me. You are." For a moment, Ethan didn't say anything. He looked at her, his face softening as he took a step closer. "I'm sorry, Mia," he repeated, his voice full of guilt. "I didn't mean for you to feel this way. You are everything to me. You've been my anchor through all of this. I've just been so afraid of losing everything that I didn't see how I was pushing you away." Mia shook her head, a single tear slipping down her cheek. "It's not about losing everything, Ethan. It's about having something real. We've built this thing together, but if we're not careful, we're going to lose us." Ethan reached out, gently wiping away the tear from her cheek. "I won't let that happen. Not again. I've been an idiot, and I know that. But I want to make this right. I want us to be a team more than just in work, in life." The conversation left both of them drained, but it also left them with clarity. They had been running so fast, so caught up in the chaos of their careers, that they had forgotten what truly mattered. It wasn't the presentation, the business, or the pressure of success. It was them. Their connection, their love, that night, as they sat together in Ethan's office, the quiet weight of the moment settled between them. For the first time in weeks, Mia felt like they were truly in sync again. Ethan reached for her hand, his touch warm and grounding. "I'm not perfect, Mia," he said quietly. "And I know I have a lot to prove, not just to you, but to myself. But I want you by my side, no matter what. I'm done letting my work define me. I'm done hiding behind my fears." Mia squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with love for him. "I'm here, Ethan, but we need to put each other first. No more putting everything else above us." Ethan nodded, a small but genuine smile tugging at his lips. "You're right. I promise I'll make this right. I'm ready to build something real with you, not just a business." Mia smiled back, the weight she had been carrying all week finally lifting. Then let's do it. Together, the day of the presentation arrived, and Mia stood at Ethan's side, feeling a sense of calm she hadn't expected. She had seen the work they'd put in, the long nights, the sacrifices. She had seen the passion in Ethan's eyes, the same passion that had drawn her to him from the very beginning. It wasn't about the investors or the money. It was about showing the world what they could achieve together. As they walked into the conference room, Ethan gave her a quick glance and smiled, his earlier tension now replaced by quiet confidence. "Ready?" he asked. Mia nodded, her heart steady. Ready? The presentation was a success. The investors were impressed, not just with the technology, but with the vision Ethan and Mia had shared. They had taken a risk, pushing boundaries in ways the industry had never seen before. And it paid off. That evening, as they celebrated the success of the presentation, Mia and Ethan found themselves in a place they had never been before together, truly together. There were no more walls between them, no more work to hide behind. They had faced the truth, confronted their fears, and found a way to move forward. As they walked out into the city, hand in hand, Ethan stopped and turned to her. "I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I want to face it with you." Mia smiled, her heart full. "I want that too." And for the first time in a long time, Mia knew that they were no longer just a team in business, they were a team in life, building something real together.